Hey, welcome back to another episode of AZ Update, our spooky edition, day before Halloween. How's everybody doing? Awesome to have you back on the show. Oh, I'm hearing myself in the background. Technical difficulties as we go through every time. It's a spooky Halloween, and wearing a spooky costume. You may not think that a hockey outfit is a spooky costume, but as producer Pierre can attest, me on the ice is very scary. Joined with me today as a co-host, Jay Gordon. How's it going, sir?
Pretty good today. I am very, very happy to be here. I'm really glad to have hair. It's been a really long time since I've had hair. And so the fact that being on this program has given me the ability to just instantly grow these luscious locks, let me tell you, I am so lucky to be here. Thank you for helping me do this.
You look like a rock star, so it's awesome. The outfit looks fantastic. We'll see producer Pierre later as well. He looks scary as always. But I wanted to kick off something really quickly because you had brought it to our attention, the Azure DevOps blog changes that have been made available. Definitely show us, what's been going on with the site.
Sure. Let me bring this up for you, will I? Sure, I will. I'll go over here to this cool little start sharing jammy. And so here we go. Not this one. What we want to take a look is this guy right here. Here we go. So the Azure DevOps blog. This is a blog that our team had been working on for a while, and we made a commitment recently that we said, you know what, we want to boost the amount of content, and it's not just going to be about Azure DevOps. Think of it more about DevOps on Azure. And so we've taken a lot of time to consider what kind of content would be really useful for people to check out. And so if you go to devblogs.microsoft.com/DevOps, you're going to be able to find tons and tons of new information and also some rehashed, recreated, maybe updated info about different things that you can do in your DevOps experience on Azure, like infrastructure as code, using GitHub Actions, and all sorts of different stuff.
And what's really cool is that, it's another great resource that people can go to specifically, learn about Azure DevOps, but also submit information and submit content. I've seen, a couple of blogs that are on there in terms of what MVPs have shared, and it's awesome that you're participating in there as well. What is the biggest thing that you would like to, amplify in regards to the blog itself in terms of participation?
Sure. The biggest thing that I want to say is that if you have questions about these subjects, the great thing about it is the cloud advocates on our team have really, committed themselves to be able to help you. So if I write a blog post and you still have some questions about it, you have an ability to, one, find me on Twitter, which I think people know I'm very there. And then you can also respond to the blog and comments. There's a number of different ways that you can eventually follow up with any of the different people that write these things. So I feel like one of the best parts is you read a subject and you actually have the ability to engage with the author to learn more about what they've communicated with you. So if there's something about a YAML workflow file in GitHub Actions that you really want a little bit more assistance with, myself, Abel Wang, Jessica Dean, Steve Murkowski, all these people, we're working together to create this. So I think that's the big value, is that now you even have us really making sure that there's new content every week. And that's the other thing we're really proud of. Every single week, you'll see stuff.
No, that's very cool. Very cool. Shall we get started with the news?
Let's get to the news.
Let's get to the news. So first up, new announcements surrounding Azure PowerShell 5.0. So this is a major release. We talk about this on the show a lot. Your feedback is very much important for the services that Microsoft builds to ensure that everybody is enabled and empowered to achieve more. And, definitely the first thing I'm going to call out on this update was the community contributions, specifically to Azure PowerShell 5.0. There's, a lot of community members that are participating into the GitHub repo. As you know, the whole offering of Azure PowerShell is open source. And so the contributions that are being made available to this offering, awesome that, there's actual call outs to specifically each service that's been added into the new 5.0 offering. The other piece I want to actually call out is the new functionality around authentication. Well, it's not really new functionality because this is something that was carried over from PowerShell 7 into Azure PowerShell 5, is the ability for token or device authentication. So you can actually use an actual key fob or an actual token device to have that capability to authenticate into Azure PowerShell through, directly through the IDE itself, obviously through the browser, through Visual Studio 2019, or through Azure CLI. So that availability.
All your 2FA stuff if you need to?
That's for all your 2FA stuff. That's correct. So when you're doing authentication in terms of management of your subscription through Azure PowerShell, you have that ability to do that token. You can use that as 2FA. You can use that as primary if you wanted to. That availability is there. The other piece is there's been, a lot of security updates that's been made available. They've removed the text property of secret text value text based on the recommendations of the community, and have now created a new solution where you're using a secret value, which is a secured string, to implement in terms of your security and implementation and authentication. And then last but not least, improved support for ACR and AKS. So
here's my thing right here.
Yeah, that's your thing, right? So for the container capabilities, that's a lot more favorable in terms of adoption and capability of management through Azure PowerShell than prior to, again, based on community recommendations. I see the wig and the chain has come off.
Yes, had to get these things off. Had to get these things off. Sorry if you had to watch me awkwardly do it, but I couldn't get that chain off from the back. I was just like, the hell with it. It's big enough. Pull it over the head. I always want to give people a look at how silly I really can be.
It's all good. Patch and Switch do that every 2 weeks, so it's awesome. It's great entertainment, right? So that's it for Azure PowerShell. And I think you're up next with the Azure and Intel news.
This is a really big one. And if you want to bring it up. So do I have everything shared right now?
Nope. Yeah, you just got to share your screen.
Yeah, cool. Here we go. So here's a big one. So not so long ago, Microsoft made a commitment to these SGX chips that are made by Intel, and they are. It's a program called confidential computing, and it's a really interesting thing that Intel has kind of really put a lot of time in making sure that everything that goes in and out of a process, an individual process in a computer, is encrypted. The memory, the CPU process, it's all about encrypting all the data. And so it's a really big part of Microsoft's commitment to confidential computing on Azure. You can see some documentation here that is all here. And so I want to talk about why this update is important, because Mark Rusinovich, who is our CTO, he really talks about how this is one of the most tested and if you will, abused CPUs in the industry to make sure it is secure as humanly possible. And so I really recommend you watch this video of Mark. It gives you a good idea of what's going on. But I want to give you a quick shot of really what SGX is about. SGX is taking all these different layers of your individual process when you're working on any sort of computer. And it's looking at all these different, and it's actually encrypting every single layer individually. And then SGX isolates any data and used from the VMs that are targeted by attacks, and then those attack vectors that come in, you can see you've got this blocked. And I think that this is a really interesting thing that they've committed to. And take a look right here. Let me bring up the other screenshot I thought was important. And this is the reason why I actually want to talk about it. So the big updates is that Microsoft is committed to the Series 3 version of the SGX chip, which is, like I said, one of the most tested and secure chips that are on the market. And these are the services they're going to get the boost from it. So we already heard about PowerShell and its new security features that really help with AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service. Well, now we're going to be able to have things using these VMs first, the virtual machines that things like Kubernetes run on. It's now going to have the DC SV2 service, I should say VM class, with the Intel SGX chip. That means that you'll be able to use confidential computing services. You can use hooks into your applications. And one of those will be Azure Kubernetes Service. You'll be able to look at the documentation and be able to use particular YAML configurations when you build your manifests to ensure that you're actually doing things through secure methods, using these encrypted tools that you will be native to Azure Kubernetes Service. Then there's, of course, Key Vault. Key Vault, Key Vault, Key Vault. Your keys aren't really useful if they're not encrypted. And now having encryption through this confidential computing service using these SGX chips, it's just another layer of security that helps you, the user, the developer, whoever you are in that kind of architecture workflow, making sure everything's secure. And then there's machine learning even. And I know this is your jam, Anthony. Onyx runtime for Open Enclave using confidential computing machines. So let's say you're working with some really kind of particular data sets, PII, as we like to say it, maybe other sorts of like confidential industry-specific data sets. You'll be able to run these through confidential computing. And then finally, where would that data be stored? In an Azure SQL database, maybe? That also, be able to use confidential queries using the new SGX chips. So I feel like these are just huge, huge reasons for you to check it out. The confidential computing website URL, here it is. I'll make sure Anthony gets this. And then the other big thing, of course, take a look at the announcement page. I think it's really useful. And of course, this intro, the confidential computing Azure, these documents, this documentation will really give you that deep understanding of why this service is important. How was that?
It was awesome. You know, in this time of pandemic, you know, the whole aspect of everybody working from home, every organization is upping the ante in terms of their security enablement. And, you know, the fact that Microsoft is doubling down on its security premises is in regards to its offering down to the chipset that run the instances of Azure in its data centers. You know, it's a huge deal. I love the fact that they're using Onyx in terms of machine learning, because that provides open-ended conversations and open-ended development of the anomaly detection and for the attack vector detection that's made available. It's that whole premise of incorporating others' ideas from the community to make things better for everyone. And so I love the fact that we've gone open source for a machine learning aspect. Yes, fan of machine learning 100%, but it's included as part of the solution that doesn't lead the solution. The cornerstone of it being a hardware, software, or hardware services play, so important to reduce that attack vector, so important in terms of the security spec. You know, Jay, this is such an awesome article or news that you brought in. And you know, if you have a second, and we have a link on it on IT Ops Talk, watch the video. It's a 2-minute video by Mark Razinovich that goes through, you know, the importance of why Microsoft has done this, why, you know, securing the footprint to ensure that there's no attacks that occur, especially in times of a pandemic when everybody's working from home.
And not only that, but let's not forget that there is a constant barrage out there in the world of 0 days, new ways to impact software, ways to, you know, attack hardware. And so if we make decisions about the kind of workloads that we run and the chipsets that they use, we can make way more secure decisions moving forward. If we have this information, like Azure provides you with SGX confidential computing, capable platforms of the service, like Azure Kubernetes Service. Like, you can go into that saying, okay, well, I can just work with my regular AKS clusters that I may have already had, but now I can implement these SGX services for, you know, workloads that we really think confidential computing in our containers is important.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the Azure Key Vault part of it, because I've worked with many customers.
Oh, hi, Pierre.
Oh, hi. I'm here. Just decided to cut in. There is so many places where I've seen where the customers or the people that are managing environments have like their keys, their authentication passwords and so on, hard-coded into scripts and hard-coded into like DevOps CI/CD pipelines because they don't know any better, or maybe because they at the time they didn't have any other ways of doing it. And I find that just the key vault part of that and having that encrypted is such a great addition to the security posture that all of our customers can have.
So it's almost a perfect segue into the next news item in regards to what's been announced for Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So we'll continue on with the news. The new availability now in terms of threat and vulnerability management for devices. This is a new offering that's been made available, specifically a graphical representation made available for the severity and the exploitation of the devices themselves in terms of what's occurring. Again, the fact that we're working from home and we're working even more remotely, access to information on our devices is key for us to be productive and for us to contribute to the organizations we support. And so, again, great that the feedback had come back in terms of additional reporting on threats that could occur on mobile devices, not just laptops and tablets, but also smartphones and other devices, down to IoT, in terms of additional attack vectors that and situations that can occur in terms of, exploiting devices for the malicious intent of accessing your data, because as we know, data is now the new currency. And so, in this time of the pandemic and everybody working from home and remotely, having the ability to detect things as they occur and then to report on them immediately as made available in through Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, a huge advantage in terms of the continuous monitoring and ensuring a safeguarding of the organization's information accessible on the devices themselves.
Yeah, I mean, every single day, we've been just talking about it, like every single layer of your application deployment and the monitoring of that it needs to have security at top of mind always. I believe that there's no other choice nowadays in how we develop applications. If security doesn't come first, then you're setting yourself up for failure. And at the second point is that these tools allow you to kind of operationalize your security monitoring, add alerting, ensure that your team is aware of what exactly is going on. Threat protection is just so it's so useful for finding those anomalies and ensuring that you've got yourself protected right away.
So let's continue on with the news. And Jay, you're up next.
Word up. Let me go ahead and share that screen. So this was something super important. I really loved reading about this. So Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare is transforming healthcare's journey. The healthcare cloud for Microsoft is continuing to grow. And I think at a time when we've just discussed the pandemic, and one of the big reasons I wanted to bring this up has mostly to do with all the security that we've been talking about today. You cannot have a global platform for healthcare without ensuring security for it. And so what it's doing is allowing these organizations like Providence to empower their healthcare collaboration so that they can do more. Right now, we need people to be able to have quicker methods of communicating, tools that may have been not necessarily structured together, now unified so that you can share information. I know you mentioned it to me, Anthony, taking IoT devices related to healthcare, being able to unify their data in a single platform to then make better decisions on what you can do. And that's what this improved clinical and operational data insights is about, is taking data and then right here, support and connected experience across healthcare workflows. And so I talked about it a second ago, and I think we can both agree, none of this is possible. None of this is possible without great secure systems on Azure, because that's the fundamental of all this. Am I right?
Well, 100%. This is, what I love about this is predefined architecture, templating a solution, enabling, based on the feedback provided by healthcare, the industry itself, in terms of how they do their day-to-day activities, how they collect information from devices, and creating that template that easily connects these devices and this know-how so that it quickly enables, doctors and nurses and all aspects of healthcare to have information at their fingertips. Again, especially in these times right now, it's so important that we are able to empower those in healthcare to have the information that they need securely on devices. And so this whole offering is a big deal because it furthers on the ability for doctors, nurses, healthcare workers to have access as required to address the situation that we're in. Again, this piece being a templated piece doesn't mean that you deploy it and that's all you can do. The ability for customization also made available in regards to you're starting out with a great foundation, and then healthcare organizations can build it out as required to connect specific devices and collect information and amass certain reports. It doesn't have to be a set it and forget it and walk away. It can be completely customized as required by the organization that adopts it. But such a timely offering that it's been made available to have that functionality in Azure for the benefit of the healthcare worker to gain access to information.
Yeah, think about how much healthcare has had to change in the last 10 months, maybe almost a year now, literally, because I believe the pandemic really began in earnest around January, and then began to spread by February to a point where healthcare organizations globally, this isn't just like here in North America, but globally had to make major modifications to how people could even communicate. Let's face it, like, people couldn't be in the same room as one another because they couldn't travel, they couldn't be there. Certain, healthcare professionals that are not necessarily on-site doctors have to be able to communicate information. And then there are things related here in the States with insurance companies where their data that needs to get passed through. We have these big healthcare conglomerates that have tons and tons of data that they use to be able to make determinations. And so services like this, being allowed them to securely work with that data, then share it with other organizations that they may be partners with, to make better decisions on how a vaccine trial is going. I think that's huge.
100%. Let's continue on. Quick shout outs to the chat room. So a lot of conversations that are going on right now. Sound seems to be great today, Pierre. A lot of people are mentioning about that. Quick hello to Paul Jensen, Andrew McCollum, Sharon Bennett, and we have Rabbit Jr. has joined us as well. Everybody on the chat room chatting away. A lot of them like the costumes that we have on in regards to the sound is working fine. A lot of questions around the security piece that we're going to have to address later. As mentioned, a lot of the information that's being shared is on itopstock.com. But really quickly, when we talk about events, I did want to bring to light one important event that's run every week, which is Azure Fun Bites. And so this is something that is run by yourself. Did you want to tell everybody just quickly what that's all about?
Yeah, Azure Fun Bites is a weekly show that I do. Thanks for bringing that up. I was going quickly. So Azure Fun Bites is a show that I do that every week we talk about the great fundamental aspects of Azure, what makes it up, and how you can get started using these simple different pieces of Azure that maybe you got to know. You need to know just how the basics of storage on Azure works. Maybe you want to understand the basics of containers. So we've done so many shows, and I just wanted to be able to show you. We're on Twitch. You can log on to Twitch. It's at Azure Fun Bites, or I should say / Azure Fun Bites. Twitter, you can follow the Twitter at / Azure Fun Bites. There's a great amount of information, and one of the best parts about all this is that every week I actually do this with a guest. So every week a guest joins me, and what we do is we educate ourselves about what exactly helps bring Azure together. And so I'm a huge fan of teaching people beginner content. I love making sure that I can engage with other people to get from, say, point A to point B. So last week, I actually had one of our vendors that we work alongside, Lightstep, and we talked about observability and monitoring. So I had Austin L. Parker from over there. He's a dev advocate as well. And we just talked through how Azure and their product works. And so other times we'll talk about, all these different things. So we also are on Twitter. You can follow us here. Let me go back and share that as well. Sorry. Just really fun things to out. I enjoy doing it, and I really hope people can follow along and check out what we're doing.
So other events to chat about today, it is a fortnight, which means that Patch and Switch will be on today. It'll be interesting to see how they change up their costumes that they've been wearing thus far up to this point, to see if they've done anything extra special for the costumes for Halloween today on Patch and Switch. Also want to bring attention to the Global AI Live community. I actually had a chance to participate with this community yesterday. If you want to check out their initiative, it's globalai.live. What I love about this, it is community generated conversations around aspects of artificial intelligence. Yesterday, myself and Seth Juarez actually was able to participate amidst the community and have great conversations. And it is all about the enablement of technology and the enablement of machine learning, cognitive services, anything that's specifically artificial intelligence based on solving solutions and problems, as opposed to just leading with AI. And it's a big conversational piece in regards to how we move forward in adoption of technology based on addressing problems and opportunities before adding the technology itself. Last but not least, we have Producer Pierre, and this, again, based on everybody's feedback, because they love to see Producer Pierre on the show. Producer Pierre is actually going to share with us today the new Microsoft Teams Learn modules.
Yes, and hopefully this week I've got sound, so if everybody can hear me, that's fine. I'm looking at the levels.
Sounding
Everything's
beautiful,
good.
Man.
All
Absolutely
right.
Beautiful. Gorgeous.
One of the Learn modules or learning path that I've wanted to highlight this week, according to the new blog that was posted this week, is there is a new landing page for Microsoft Teams. In this day of the human malware, Microsoft Teams has seen tremendous growth, and a lot of companies, and small and large, have been adopting it or rolling it out, or extending their rollouts. So now there's an actual learning path or landing page that will take you through a lot of getting started with Teams. So how to set it up, how to enforce security and privacy and compliance, just to keep with the theme of today of securing your environment, how to deploy phone systems with direct routing and so on. So there are a ton of learning paths and learning modules in this landing page for any Teams administrator or somebody who's considering rolling it out for their company to get going and get the knowledge that they need ahead of being able to deploy it everywhere.
So thank you, Producer Pierre, for sharing the plethora of Microsoft Teams modules made available.
Okay, take a drink. Anthony said plethora.
Jay, I want to get a hold of you. How do they get a hold of you, Jay?
Scream out your windows. You can find me on Twitter. It's at JDestro, Jaydestro. Very easy to find me there. At Azure Fun Bites, another easy way to find me, both there or on Twitch. I've got a bunch of stuff on YouTube. If you go to aka.ms/JGordon on YouTube, you can find me and all the different Azure Fun Bites and different Azure tutorials that I've put together. dev.to/JDestro. All my blog posts, everything, including all the Azure Fun Bites shows, they're all embedded, including a bunch of short videos that I do, about 2-minute produced videos on the real quick fun bites, the real quick shots. So check those out.
Producer Pierre, if they want to get a hold of you on socials, we got 1 minute left.
At Wired Canuck, everywhere. Go ahead.
For some reason you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me at Wireless Life on Twitter. Jay, thank you very much for being co-host on today's show. It was awesome to have you on. Everybody have a safe and happy Halloween, and we'll see you next Friday.
See you next time.